Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be showcasing battles from the Fossil Cup, where a member of the community is submitting a triple water team that they mentioned they've gone 48 wins and 11 losses with. Now, these battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, BMB97, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, the team features Golisopod, Jellicent, and Araquanid, so it's triple weak to electric moves like Thunderfang Steelix. That does worry me, but I'm intrigued to see how this team performs because it has a pretty impressive win rate. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at this team featuring Araquanid in the Fossil Cup. In game number 1, picking up a tricky lead, Golisopod into Fury Cutter's Shadow Scizor. Now, Scizor does typically run Fury Cutter in this meta for the better pacing and also for the better Golisopod matchup, as obviously Fury Cutters do add up quite a bit, and after a Trailblaze, the Fury Cutter damage really gets going, and there is the Trailblaze. Golisopod now getting melted by these Fury Cutters. It's going to be a CMP tie. Well played by the opponent. Golisopod going to commit the final shield. The opponent can probably get a farm down here if they shield back, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Golisopod desperately needs the Aqua Jet and cannot get there. That is so unfortunate. In comes Araquanid, and Araquanid is going to have to eat a boosted move from the Scizor. It's going to be the Trailblaze that does do a solid amount of damage. In comes a Poliwrath, and this is not a response to Araquanid. Banking some energy to switch into Jellicent in the back is going to be Gastrodon, and Gastrodon will be met with the Shadow Ball. I believe in the Zero Shield as the Jellicent, you can go double Surf. Initially, I did try going for the Shadow Ball Surf combination, but it did feel like a bit of overkill. Earth Power comes out from the Gastrodon, and now Jellicent will get to pick up the KO with the Surf. Surf KOs that Gastrodon. Back in comes the Poliwrath. Poliwrath will need to fire off an Icy Wind to pick up the KO, and it's going to be up to the Water Spider Araquanid to close out this game. In comes Araquanid. Araquanid does get to the Bug Buzz, and even though this is resisted, Bug Buzz does have a pretty solid base power, and that's going to be getting Poliwrath low. Poliwrath, what moveset are they running? Do they have Dynamic Punch? Are they Pup Icy Wind? They're Pup Icy Wind. Araquanid gets the farm down, and despite a very tough lead, able to secure the Game 1 win. We move to game number 2, Golisopod staring down Poliwrath. Opponent is going to save switch into Feraligatr, and the moment you're behind by a turn, this matchup is incredibly miserable. X-Scissor is going to land. There's an aggressive switch into the Araquanid, and Araquanid more than happy to absorb crunches in this matchup. The opponent is going to fire off the Crunch, but obviously Crunch has a much lower chance of debuffing this season, so for Feraligatr, that makes this matchup even more uncomfortable. Another Crunch is going to come through. Araquanid not going to risk the farm down, instead just going to fire off the Bubble Beam to guarantee the matchup. Bubble Beam is going to not quite KO. Opponent will get to send back in the Poliwrath, and Poliwrath does not get the farm down. The Bug Buzz is reached on very low HP, getting the Poliwrath low. Poliwrath actually gets the Bug Buzz debuff, and now all this beautiful Poliwrath energy goes to waste as Jellicent hits the field. Jellicent will get to massively overfarm in this matchup. Opponent throws on alignment, just trying to guarantee that they can land that move. Another Icy Wind will come through. Jellicent will go for a Surf. Personally, in this moment, I think Shadow Ball is the right call because the opponent has high incentive to no shield, and they will. In comes Jellicent. I do like the banking of all that energy and then sending in the Golisopod, because obviously now those 2 Icy Wind debuffs have been undone by the switch out. Golisopod farming up. Golisopod thinking about calling the bait, calls the bait, it's the Shadow Ball, down goes Golisopod. Jellicent does have so much energy. Jellicent is now going to go for the Surf. While Surf will not knock out the Jellicent, the goal here is pretty clear. Just put it in a range where you can Hex everything down. The Feraligatr and the Poliwrath in the back are also going to be very low. The Hex does go through. I think the opposing Jellicent might live this on 1 HP. They're going to go for the Surf. There's the switch into the Poliwrath. Poliwrath does not get the move. All it does is just feed farm to the Jellicent. Jellicent is going to be firing off the Surf at the Feraligatr, not wanting to take those Shadow Claws. Down goes Feraligatr. In comes the Jellicent. And that game is going to end in victory. We move to the next match, Golisopod staring down a Ferrothorn, and on this team, this is definitely where you want to see the Ferrothorn. Golisopod will get to overfarm quite a bit, and now look to connect with the X-Scissor. X-Scissor obviously not going to threaten a knockout, but you do have a pretty sizable pacing advantage over the Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn throwing on very nice timing here as well. Ferrothorn goes for the Thunder, and shielding a Thunder puts you so far ahead as the Golisopod. If they just go straight Power Whip, then their pacing, while it's slower, is not that much slower, but actually going for a Thunder just puts you in such a pacing deficit as the Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn goes for another Thunder, and Golisopod's in such a good spot. Opponent, oh no! They get the catch of the X-Scissor onto the Poliwrath, but now Golisopod can just rebank this energy and go Jellicent. So very nice recovery. Catches, they happen, they're unfortunate, but rebanking the energy and then walling the opponent's energy is a really nice play. Jellicent just going to look to overfarm here, trying to get as much energy as possible, is going to be -2, but the Poliwrath's taking quite a bit of damage already, so even a -2 Shadow Ball will still add up onto the Poliwrath. Shadow Ball is going to be fired here. Poliwrath now very low. Poliwrath, oh no, that is a nasty Hex down. In the back is going to be Lantern. Now, if you're running a triple water team, you do not want to see anything with electric moves, and Spark Lantern definitely on that list. Going to switch out of Jellicent since it is heavily debuffed and send in the Araquanid. Araquanid is monstrously bulky. It survives a Thunderbolt like it's nothing, and now Araquanid will make it to the Bug Buzz. Bug Buzz will do big damage here onto the Lantern. Lantern is going to commit the shield. Lantern gonna try for the farm down. They're paying too much of a price. They send in the Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn going to be met with the Bubble Beam. Bubble Beam into the Ferrothorn is gonna pick up the KO. Back in comes the Lantern. Lantern does have a lot of energy. In comes the Golisopod, and that move that was banked from earlier wins this game. I love seeing games where good energy management is rewarded, and in that game, banking the move was the win con. Unfortunately, things are only getting tougher as Golisopod is now staring down a Shadow Steelix. Now, I typically run the regular Steelix, so I'm not super familiar with the matchups on the Shadow, but since the Shadow is frailer, they may be more inclined to shield, and they do commit the shield. That is unfortunate. Steelix will fire off energy. If they crunch, it's going to be a problem. They call the Psychic Fangs. It doesn't KO, and that's massive for Golisopod. But bad news, the opponent made a catch. They catch the Aqua Jet onto their own Golisopod, and now in comes Araquanid. Araquanid going to be completely unfazed by anything Golisopod throws here. X's are not going to be a problem. Araquanid can just fully farm down and exit with a lot of energy. Golisopod going to fire off another X-Scissor. This is a situation where you would really like to have Water Pulse, because when the Steelix comes back in, Water Pulse would hit for some pretty solid damage, whereas Bubble Beam, unfortunately, it's super effective, but it's a very low damage move. The opponent has their own Araquanid. Oh my goodness. The opponent also running the double bug strategy. In comes the Jellicent, answered with the Steelix, and this is going to be a very interesting game. Steelix grabs the shield with the Psychic Fangs. Jellicent is going to be spamming out these Surfs, desperately trying to get rid of this Steelix. The Surf is going to be shielded. These Thunder Fangs adding up more and more, and this is a problem. Jellicent can probably get rid of the Steelix, but it's going to exit this matchup so heavily debuffed. The Surf is reached. Is this going to be enough damage to KO the Shadow Steelix? Steelix does get knocked out. Back in comes Araquanid, and we see an immediate Bubble Beam. So now the opponent is going to be at -1 attack for the remainder of this game, but they still have so much health available on their Araquanid, and they get that farm down. And I think the Araquanid is just too healthy. It's at -1, but I believe the opponent is going to be able to take this win. Honestly, made the game surprisingly close for how tough Steelix is. They do go for the Water Pulse, the Shadow Ball is reached, but Araquanid, it's a bulky monster. It's just too bulky. It shakes off that Shadow Ball damage. There is the switch into the Golisopod, trying for a catch, but it does not happen. And the opposing Araquanid is going to take the win. So far, Araquanid, 100% win rate in this video. Obviously, that just had the opponent's Araquanid taking the win. Okay, Golisopod into Poliwrath. This is a very nice lead for the Golisopod, as obviously Golisopod does have a really good pacing advantage. Opponent is going to make a catch onto Mantine. Mantine would be a very tough Pokemon to see on the lead, but Mantine, as a Pokemon, has very, very bad neutral matchups. Here, the opponent, oh, a big timing error. An entire Hex goes through for free. Aerial Ace is going to land, and now Jellicent is going to be firing off the Shadow Ball. Mantine, its job in this meta is to try and hard counter Golisopod. If it's not on Golisopod, it's going to have a pretty tough day. Mantine now gets to fire off another Aerial Ace. This will not knock out. I'm a bit surprised at the shield because Jellicent could have tanked the Aerial Ace and farmed down, but Jellicent is prioritizing health, and in comes comes Steelix. Steelix going to be met with a Shadow Ball. It was just a blind Shadow Ball thrown there, and now we will see the Surf. Will the Steelix go for a double shield? They do go for the double shield. There's the pivot into the Golisopod. Opponent going to fire off energy here. They should switch into the Poliwrath to absorb this energy, and they will. In comes the Poliwrath, and unfortunately, these counters will actually add up. Now the Golisopod's defense has been debuffed. Poliwrath will fire off energy, and I do see only one win con. Bringing in the Jellicent, banking a move because counters do so little, saving the move for the Steelix, and then sending in Araquanid. In comes the Jellicent. Will they bank the move? Oh, they bank it. They send in Araquanid. This is absolutely perfect. Araquanid obviously going to be completely unfazed by the charge attacks from the Poliwrath. Poliwrath goes for the Icy Wind. They're going to be firing off one final charge attack here before they do get farmed down. Poliwrath is going to opt for the harder hitting Dynamic Punch. In comes Steelix, and Steelix will immediately be debuffed with this Bubble Beam. Bubble Beam already not a particularly powerful attack, and it's only getting less effective thanks to that Icy Wind debuff. But these Bubble Beams do stall out the switch timer. There is the combo play with the Jellicent. Jellicent firing off the Surf saved from earlier. They survive on very low HP to make one final move. It's going to be the Psychic Fangs. Araquanid bug bites down the Steelix. In comes the Poliwrath, and Araquanid, what a beast, is able to take the win. We move to the next match, and it's like looking in a mirror, Golisopod versus Golisopod. Honestly, even if this matchup ends up being a soft loss, getting energy on Jellicent just goes very far in this meta. X-Scissor is going to land. The opponent didn't CMP tie. They're overfarming quite a bit, and we actually see a catch out of this lead matchup, catching the move onto the ever bulky Araquanid. Araquanid going to be answered with a Gastrodon. How is this their best response to an Araquanid? Oh no, trainer, this is not the way. Gastrodon going to fire off the Body Slam. I'm so intrigued to see what their final Pokemon is, that this was their best option into an Araquanid. Araquanid goes for the Bug Buzz. That's big damage. Got the defense drop as well. Gastrodon making one final charge attack. It is going to be the Earth Power, and Araquanid gets the farm down. They're now going to send in Poliwrath, and this does make sense because Poliwrath is also completely walled off. This bug water typing is so good in this meta, and now in comes the Jellicent. They're going to send in the Golisopod, and this is just a very easy win from Jellicent from here on out. X-Scissor is going to land, getting to fire off the Aqua Jet. Either move will be enough to pick up the KO, and it doesn't matter where the opponent uses their shields, they just can't win this game. They end up shielding up here. In comes the Jellicent, and there's going to be the Resignation. We move to the next match. Golisopod is going to be staring down Shadow Steelix once again. So far, a 1-1 record against Shadow Steelix. I'm a bit surprised to not see regular Steelix, as I do think regular Steelix does perform a little bit better in this meta due to this survivability. Aqua Jet is going to land, and that's part of what I didn't end up liking about the Shadow Steelix. Look how much damage that Shadow Steelix just took. They lost a whole Pokemon. They go for a Psychic Fangs. They catch onto their Golisopod. That's unfortunately the second time that exact catch has happened, but now in comes Araquanid. Araquanid is just where energy goes to die. It's so incredibly bulky, and with this new fast move pressure with Bug Bite, I really love its farm ability. Not wanting to take any more damage than is necessary, so a Bubble Beam will be fired off here. X-Scissor, I mean, the Araquanid was surviving it anyway, but now it's going to leave this matchup a lot healthier. Opponent sends in Steelix. Steelix making one final move, but those Bug Bites do actually add up. They get to the Psychic Fangs. In comes the Jellicent, and one Hex is going to knock out the Steelix. So the Steelix has been eliminated. Opponent going to bring in their own Jellicent, but they're down a Hex, and this is really bad for the opponent. Going for the Surf Bait. Does the opponent call it? They do not, and now they're just too far behind. The Shadow Ball is reached. It's a CMP tie. The opponent's Jellicent losing CMP. Shadow Ball is gonna land, and that's just game over there. Now 2-1 against Thunderfang Steelix with the Triple Water team. Hopping into the final match, Golisopod staring down Gastrodon. What an incredible lead. Gastro staying in this matchup to start with. They bank the Body Slam, send in Jellicent, and this is an incredibly easy game from this point forward. You just stay in with the Golisopod. Golisopod's up enough energy, it will very easily be able to force alignment. And then there's the second Bug Water type at the back, the Araquanid, which will completely destroy the poor Gastrodon. So this is the easiest shield ever for the Gliscod, because the moment you get alignment, the opponent should be in basically an unwinnable position. Obviously, if they have something like a Togedemaru in the back, things could get pretty rough, but once they've lost switch, they're going to be really hard pressed to do anything in this game. They're going to bring back in the Gastrodon. Body Slam just does not knock out here, so they can fire off the move, but that's not a problem for Gliscod. Gliscod makes another Aqua Jet. Opponent throws the Body Slam rather than get hit with the move, and you can just send in the Araquanid. In comes Araquanid. It's Feraligatr in the back, and oh my goodness, they're ABA weak to the Spider. Araquanid will commit the shield as Feraligatr goes for the crunch, and now for this poor opponent, everything is just getting Bubble Beam to death. They even no shield. They understand that it's just a Bubble Beam, but these Bug Bites are just criminal. Feraligatr shaking his head, making it to a final crunch, does get a crunch debuff, and they resign. They do not want to play anymore against Araquanid. All in all, I think Araquanid, it's a Pokemon that definitely flew under the radar when the buffs were announced. As Araquanid in the past, it did win the 2022 Pokemon Go World Championships, but obviously that was 3 full years ago, and it hasn't seen an incredible amount of play since. But in this limited meta, and as we learned this past weekend at the North American International Championships, it is a lot more play than we are expecting. It's an incredibly bulky Pokemon, and giving a Pokemon that's this bulky and has an ability to lower the opponent's attack extra fast move pressure makes a lot of its matchups so much more convincing. And this trainer, they mentioned, I believe it was 48 wins and 11 losses with the team at the time of submitting. So even though it's a team that is triple weak to electric, they were able to find a way. It's not like they weren't seeing Steelix. They had 3 Steelix in these battles, and they just beat 2 of the 3 Steelix despite being triple weak to Thunderfang. So I do want to give this trainer some props because it's a pretty interesting team idea. I don't think it's something that I necessarily would have thought of. I oftentimes try and build more balanced style teams, so the idea of a lead and a back Pokemon sharing the exact same typing is not a way that I'd normally team build, but it ends up working out for them, I guess in large part due to the fact that it's a team that's very difficult to read. When you see Gliscod, you're basically never expecting another Bug Water in the back because that's not normally how teams are built, so the fact that the backline is unreadable can be a bit of an advantage for this trainer. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.